You will never be satisfied with how much Bitcoin you have. Let's say you get to zero point 0.1 Bitcoin, you're going to want to get to zero point 0.2. You get to zero point 0.2 Bitcoin, you're going to want zero point 0.5. You get to zero point 0.5, you'll want 1. You get to 1, you'll want 2. You get to 2, you'll want 5, and so on. It'll keep going because there's no limit to how much money we can have. And in this video, I want to explain to you what exactly I mean by this. I want to do a little bit of a different video from my normal videos. My usual videos are about delaying gratification, putting all the energy that you can into Bitcoin. In this video, I want to talk about the opposite, which is finding a balance and enjoying your life while stacking for the future. Let's get started. I had a one-on-one call with someone recently, and one of the biggest problems that he had was that he felt like he didn't have enough Bitcoin. I'll tell you how much Bitcoin he had later on, but I want to give you a little bit more details on his financial situation. He had a business, he was making a lot of money, probably over 30 to 40 grand a month. He had multiple houses, multiple rental properties. He had taken on debt against each one, and he even borrowed money against his primary residence to buy Bitcoin. He had a decent stack. He had over 10 Bitcoin. Like I said before, I'll tell you how much he had. He had over 10 Bitcoin, and he called to ask how he can borrow even more money to buy more Bitcoin. He wanted to go all in. He was more concerned about the number on his wallet than he was about making sure that he has this Bitcoin in secure custody. And when something happens to him, his family, and the people who he wants to be supported by that Bitcoin can actually access it. He wasn't worried about that. He was more worried about getting more Bitcoin. In this scenario, he was doing really well financially. He had a great business. He was making a lot of money. He had rental properties. He was continuously getting checks each month to buy Bitcoin with. He had borrowed against those rental properties and he bought even more Bitcoin. And all he was concerned about was getting more. And when I asked him why he needs more, he couldn't really give me an answer. I asked him, how stressed out would you be if, let's say, Bitcoin drops 40 to 50% from here and you're underwater 50 to 60% because he had bought a little earlier. He had bought above 100K for his entire stack. He was already down 10 to 15% at that point. So I asked him, how happy would you be if the price falls 50% from here? How happy would you be if the price falls 70, 80, 90% from here? And I asked him, would you sell? He said that he would be extremely stressed out. He would be so worried. He couldn't even imagine Bitcoin's price going down that much. And while I think that it won't, I think it's important to prepare yourself for Bitcoin to go down that much. It's important to prepare yourself for the situation where Bitcoin could fall 70, 80, 90%. And if you're leveraged as much as you possibly can, keep in mind that he had as much leverage as he could, and he wanted to take on even more leverage to buy more Bitcoin. In his case, I would say that he had enough Bitcoin and he didn't need to buy more. He should be more concerned about spending time with his family and friends and doing the things that he needs to deepen those relationships. You'll never be satisfied with the amount of money you have in your bank account. You'll never be satisfied with how many rental properties you have. You'll never be satisfied with how many stocks you have. You'll never be satisfied with how much Bitcoin you have because the number of things that you can buy will constantly be increasing. You'll be able to find more things that you want to buy, and you'll always have a reason to get more Bitcoin. But the sad part here is that we're so materially motivated by the things that we want to buy. Let's say you want to buy a Rolex. You'll put in so much more work than you would if you didn't really have an end goal in mind. Let's say you wanted to buy a bigger house. You'll work extra hours. You'll work overtime. You'll do whatever you could to get to that house, to get to the down payment to buy the house. But then once you actually have the house, once you actually have the Rolex, once you have the car that you really wanted to buy, are you going to maintain that level of satisfaction? I made this post a long time ago and I put it up on my Instagram account. I was mentioning a concept called the hedonic treadmill. Buying things is not going to make you feel better. So you can see here, do you buy things to make yourself feel better? You might be stuck on the hedonic treadmill. I made this post with my wife. It's a little bit different from my other Instagram posts that I've made in the past and all of the Twitter posts that I make. This is something that we made together and we kind of thought through it. So let me go through the example here. So what we discussed was the hedonic treadmill. It's a tendency for people to remain at an average level of happiness regardless of their status, their goals, or their achievements. So let's say, for example, you do something that you really wanted to get done. At some point, you're going to stop valuing that achievement because you're going to look for the next thing to achieve. Let's say you lose something in your life. Let's say you lose your job. At some point, again, you're going to get used to that situation. You're going to be in that situation for long enough that you're going to find something that makes you happier. So you can see here, there's a sort of a trend with the amount of happiness that you have and the amount of sadness in your life. And the important takeaway here is that there's a tendency for people to remain at a certain level of happiness. They remain at that average level of happiness regardless of what happens in their life, regardless of their status, their goals, their achievements. If you get a new job at some point, you're not going to be as happy because there are going to be other problems that come with having that job. Let's say you get a new job, you get promoted, now you have to commute longer. Or let's say you buy a new house, now you have to get new furniture and you have to work even harder at your job to fill up that house with furniture. So this dotted line here is the average level of happiness. And let's say you buy Bitcoin, you get really happy. Then you see the price drop and you think, oh, I should have waited to buy. And you get a little bit less happy. And then the price goes up a little bit and you buy a little bit more, or something happens, you get a little bit happier. But then you get used to that price. Let's say it goes to 100,000, you get used to that price, and then it drops back down to 90,000. You're going to see this kind of change in your emotional state. In this case, we were talking about buying things to make yourself feel better. So I mentioned before the material purchases, the watch, the house, the car. Consumers make purchases to feel better in the moment. In reality, this wastes money and it hurts in the long term because what you're doing is you're spending your money, you're giving away your energy, your time, your effort to buy whatever thing you want to buy. I think in this case, it's a little bit different with Bitcoin because you're not giving your money away and getting back something that's depreciating. You're giving your money away and you're getting back something that's supposed to appreciate over time. You're giving your money away to get back more optionality for the future. So in this case, we'll just go through with the example that we were talking about. Shopping therapy leads to more hours at work, which leads to more shopping therapy, just like a treadmill. And you can see here, this is an example that my wife came up with. Consider these examples. Feel insecure about your looks. The easiest solution, get new makeup or get an expensive haircut. How long until these things don't help anymore? The difficult, rewarding solution would be to improve your self esteem and love yourself no matter what. And the second example, if you want people to like you, the easiest solution is, let's say, buy new clothes or a new car. These purchases may make you feel like people want to be in your life, but in reality, they don't really care. They're more concerned with your communication skills. They're concerned about being happy around you rather than you having these better clothes. They're more concerned with your personality, with who you are as a person, instead of what you can buy to fulfill whatever desires you have. If anything, buying new things is going to make them hate you because they want to keep up with you. They feel like a loser because they don't have, let's say, the same level of fashion or the same house, the same car as you. So they need to spend more money now to get to your level. I think this is very relevant to Bitcoin here. A lot of people don't go for shopping therapy. They don't go to buy new clothes. They don't buy new cars. People are now buying investments. They're buying thousands and thousands of rental properties. And they're making their life harder because they have to manage those rental properties. So to get off this hedonic treadmill, stop thinking of money as the answer to your problems. Money is not going to solve anything. You can buy as much Bitcoin as you want to. You can get as much of it in your wallet as you want to. But what happens if you die tomorrow and you haven't spent that Bitcoin? That Bitcoin is worthless to you. And in this case, so in the case of the person that I was speaking with, his wife wasn't even really aware of this Bitcoin. She knew he had it, but she didn't know how to access it. She didn't know how to move it around. So what would happen if, let's say, he's so stressed out about this debt? Let's say Bitcoin's price falls 50, 60, 70%. He's so stressed out about this debt. He has a heart attack. He dies. And now his wife is stuck with this massive amount of debt and she can't even access the Bitcoin that he bought with it. So his wife is now stuck making those payments for the mortgage. She doesn't even know how to access the Bitcoin and he's gone. He's tried to make this impact on his wife, on his family, but it hasn't worked because she now can't access the Bitcoin. So stop thinking of money as the solution to your problems. Spending more money on material things or even Bitcoin investments could lead to less time for experiences because you're working more to pay your bigger bills. A lot of people are so focused on delaying gratification that they can't find the balance in enjoying their life as well. They haven't trained themselves to be able to get instant gratification as well. So this person, for example, he hadn't gone on a trip in years. His wife wanted to go on a trip, but he wanted to save as much money as he could. He already had over 10 Bitcoin, but he still wanted to keep spending more money and borrowing more money to buy more Bitcoin, even though he doesn't really need it. He knew where Bitcoin is going in the future. He knows it's going to millions of dollars, but he wants to buy even more Bitcoin. And I get it. There's of course logic there. You want to get as much of that asset as possible, but how much of it do you need? Where's the end game? There is no end game in this case. Some people will keep trying to stack Bitcoin even though it makes no difference in their life to have more. What's the difference going to be if you go from 10 Bitcoin to 10.5 or 10 to 11? I mean, I know there's going to be a difference in the amount of things that you can buy, but is that really going to make that big of a change in your life? Going from 0 Bitcoin to 1 Bitcoin is massive. You're going from 0 to 100%. But going from 10 to 11, marginally, that's not as valuable, I'd say, as spending more time with your friends and family, being able to go on a vacation with your family, and maybe even saying that, oh, if your wife is working full time, maybe she can go part time. Maybe that gives her more freedom and that decreases the level of stress that she has rather than buying even more Bitcoin and stacking this number that may not even have any value to you if you pass away. So the second one, don't depend on instant gratification from purchases. Focus on the simple day-to-day pleasures of your life. In his case, I don't think he needs to borrow more Bitcoin. I think that men are very attracted to leverage because it makes them feel very powerful. They see that they're borrowing money to buy this thing, they're making this decision, which has a lot of risks associated with it. And if it works out, then they get this dopamine hit. But if it doesn't work out, then what happens to you? How stressed out will you be? I think a lot of people who are Bitcoiners, who are diehard Bitcoiners, they know what they're doing, they understand this asset. I think that they're going to die of stress because they just can't stop getting more, even though they have tons of it. Like Michael Saylor, for example, his company has 650,000 Bitcoin. Now they're borrowing even more money to buy even more Bitcoin. They're going to keep going. They're going to keep going for a very, very long time. People who have multiple Bitcoin already are still trying to stack more. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. You should keep stacking Bitcoin as long as you're enjoying your life, you're spending time with your family and friends. But if you're taking on even more risk than you need to buy that Bitcoin, then I think you're putting yourself in a pretty difficult situation. One thing that I've figured out about myself in the last little while is that I've been really so focused on just studying Bitcoin, accumulating as much as I can, working on my business, that number three, I don't, I didn't really start doing something to enjoy my life. I didn't find a hobby until more recently. So before, I mean, I was always playing hockey, I was always going to the gym, but more recently, I thought that maybe I'll play more hockey because I truly do enjoy it. And it gives me fulfillment when I play and I play well. So what I started doing is I started spending a little bit more money on playing hockey when I could have spent that money to stack even more Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, like I said, what if I die tomorrow? What's that Bitcoin really going to be worth? My life would be over and I wouldn't have enjoyed it to the max or even a little bit because I'd be just worried about stacking more Bitcoin and saving even more money. Or let's say, for example, it's not even that the person has to pass away. What if your ability to do whatever you really want to just goes away? Let's say you like going on hikes, you like traveling to different countries, and you get into a really bad car accident and you become a paraplegic and you can't walk. You can't do anything on your own. You rely on other people to support you. All those dreams that you had of, let's say, going to this country or this country, going on this hike or this hike, all of those dreams are wiped. In my case, that's what I think about when I think about hockey. So let's say, for example, if something were to happen to me and I can't walk, my legs don't work, how do I play hockey? that sport that I really like playing is gone. And all I did was accumulate more Bitcoin. I didn't really enjoy my life the way that I wanted to, and I just spent that time and money on Bitcoin. What's the value of that? Money in and of itself has no real value. It's just numbers on a screen. Of course, you can buy whatever you want with it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't stack Bitcoin, but I'm saying it's important to understand what money really is. Money is a way to exchange for utility. When you have money, you're not really getting utility. Money in and of itself doesn't have utility. It's not meant to have utility. What it is a way to purchase energy from other people. So if you have a ton of Bitcoin, you can use that Bitcoin to exchange with somebody else. Let's say it's a rancher, they grow meat. You can exchange your Bitcoin for this person's hard work. You can give him your Bitcoin and he can give you that meat. That's where he stored his energy. He put his energy into it. He created something of value. Now he can sell it to you for your Bitcoin. So while you're stacking Bitcoin, don't forget that life is short. You don't know how long you have on earth. Spend your time and spend money with your family and friends. Do the things that you know they love doing. Do the things you love doing with them. I think it's worth it. Don't just keep delaying and delaying and delaying. You don't know if retirement is actually going to come. And again, this isn't to be taken in a way that I'm telling you you don't want to buy Bitcoin. Not at all. I think it's important to buy Bitcoin. I think it's important to delay gratification, but there's a limit and there's a trade-off on either extreme. So if you don't delay gratification at all, at some point, if you do live, you're going to be in poverty and you're not going to have enough money to support yourself. But if you delay gratification for too long, at some point, you're going to see that you're not able to do the things that you love. You're not able to go on trips. Let's say you can't play hockey or you can't go to watch a movie. Let's say you go blind, something happens. You can't go watch the movie. So there's there's trade-offs either way. There's a balance that you have to find. If you can't find the right balance, you're going to be miserable. And what about for instant gratification? Again, there's extremes. People want to spend all of their money today. They want to spend all of their time today on enjoying their life. And at some point, the worst thing that can happen to them is that they live too long because they don't have any savings. On the other hand, people who don't want to get any instant gratification, they want to keep delaying and they want to keep delaying. What if they don't get to enjoy their lives? What if the world completely changes? What if things just keep getting more and more expensive and they can't afford to do the things that they want to do, or those things don't even exist in the first place? So find the right balance. You'll never have enough Bitcoin. You'll always feel like you want more. Just set up recurring buys. Keep buying over time. At a certain point, you don't have to borrow more money to buy Bitcoin. You don't need to take on more leverage to buy Bitcoin. I know theoretically it sounds very smart. Borrow at 10%, buy Bitcoin, which gives you a 30, 40, 50% return. But what if the next few years are just sideways moving years and you paid all that interest for nothing? So let's say you can borrow $10,000 at 8%. You can make monthly payments of $500 to that loan, or you can buy $500 of Bitcoin per month. Let's say your growth rate on that Bitcoin is minus 5% because anything can happen. Institutional investors are here. They can do whatever they want to change the price in the way that they feel is appropriate. They could easily try pushing Bitcoin's price down for a very, very long time. So let's say, for example, you have these $500 monthly payments. You would have paid off the loan at month 22. You would have gotten in total 10.99 million Satoshis. By the time you've paid off the loan and let's say Bitcoin's price keeps going down, your Satoshis are worth $9,141.48, but you paid $10,700 or so, $10,692 in total for that Bitcoin. Now, I know this is probably going completely against the traditional wisdom that you hear about investing, borrow money to buy Bitcoin or borrow money to buy assets, use other people's money to build wealth for yourself. I get that. I know that that's completely different. My point here is to think about both sides of the equation. If you borrow money and Bitcoin's price goes down, how are you going to feel? Are you going to feel stupid? Are you going to sell your Bitcoin and then watch Bitcoin go right back up? Or are you just going to hold on and you're not going to get stressed out? I think it's very difficult to know if you're going to get stressed out or not until you're in the situation where Bitcoin's price falls 70, 80, 90%. You can say whatever you want to today, but at that point, I think that you're going to be thinking very, very differently. So the key takeaway here is you're never going to have enough Bitcoin. Stop thinking about the amount of Bitcoin that you have. Stop thinking about the dollar value of the Bitcoin you have. Just keep creating more value. Keep making sure that you can buy more Bitcoin every single month. However you want to, let's say you want to buy $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 a month, that's perfectly fine, but also make sure that you're spending time with your family and friends. Let's say your spouse wants to go on a trip, don't keep delaying gratification. If you already have a ton of Bitcoin, don't keep delaying gratification. Like I said, you don't know how long you have on earth. Spend your time with your family and friends, enjoy your life while at the same time building for the future. If you want to book a meeting with me, you can in the link in the description and in the pinned comment below. You can book a one-on-one session with me and you can ask me any questions you have. You can talk about Bitcoin. You can ask me, let's say, if you want a step by step on how to buy and store your Bitcoin, we can go through that. Whatever you want to do, book that meeting in the link below. If you found value in this video, I highly recommend that you watch this one here where I explain how to avoid losing all of your wealth in the greatest wealth transfer of all time.